Dinam Sudinam Chame. Sanatana Dharma 101, Module 1, Class 2. Purva Kaksha Sangrahascha. What did we learn in the last class? We learned Sanatana Dharma is way of living. So, there are many references in the ancient text, primarily in Rig Veda. Rig mane archana, rich, rig, archayati iti rich. So it is these are poems to eulogize devathas, and also people among us are also praised depending upon the circumstances and situations. So that also gives us how people lived in the ancient times. So we have studied the story of a mighty king, Bhavya Swanaya, who belongs to the progeny of Bhavya Swanaya, who was praised by a rishi in a mellifluous poetic flow called Kakshivan. So this king Swanaya was controlling the land on the banks of Sindhu river, Saptar in Sindhu Prant. So we know that the civilization revolved around a leader, people who propagated knowledge, and then a supporting network. In order to keep that society running, the mighty leader took care of the people. There were horses, there were goats, there were coins or money, and this is how the system functioned then. So that information is available in the first mandala itself. Although we cannot strictly say that the time of each mandala is in a chronological form as the book is arranged. So we don't know whether first mandala was the first thing or the ancient time among the different time frames in the 10th mandala, which we cannot say. Although one set of people do tell the way the mandalas are arranged refers to the time frame. For example, first mandala means that was the earliest form, but which I do not prescribe to. Rig Veda is arranged in mandalas according to Gotra rishis. For example, third mandala is fully Vishwamitra. Likewise, the rishis, based on the rishis, Rig Veda mandala is arranged. Some people say that 10th mandala is the last mandala, so it prescribes to the later part of the Vedic time frame. That could also be, but we can't precisely say. So let's not go into the exact time frame within the 10 mandalas of the Rig Veda. But in the first mandala itself, the way of life on rivers such as Sindhu is alluded to. So there was civilization long time back in the Sapta Sindhu region and other rivers. Then slowly the people migrated towards east to the basins of Ganges and Yamuna and other rivers, and slowly the civilization spread. So this is what we have studied. And the way of life was only prescribed early on, and so that was denoted simply as Sanatanic Dharma. Then when other religions came into being in the 17th century or early part of 18th century or in the 18th century, somewhere around 1790, the colonizers started giving the term Hindus, Hindustani, and then Hindus. And subsequently that term became more etched in the society, and then the Sanatana Dharmic people are called as people following the Hindu religion. And even in census data, In Bharat, we only say that, are you a Hindu? Yes, we tick. So it is a practice now, it is followed. So let's also do not nitpick on that. Although Sanatana Dharma is the correct way to express the religion or the way of life we are in, we can also interchangingly call us as Hindus or followers of Hindu Dharma, but it is Sanatana Dharma. So we have to understand, and we don't have to dwell too much on the exact use or phrase, but both can be used interchangingly. This is what we have studied. And in today's class, the one question always arises. Why are there so many texts? In other religions, it is either Torah or Zendavasta or Bible or Quran. But even if you take Bible, it is a collection of different books. Matthew, Mark, Peter and all those things. John and so on and so forth. But that's all put together in one collection corpus known as Bible, Quran, Zendavasta, Torah. So then the question comes in our mind, why are there so many texts in our religion? I'm using the word religion from now on, but it is understood that we are talking about the way of life. Actually, there are no different texts. The primordial, the basic text for Sanatana Dharma is only Vedas. So today's lecture is, what is the Sanatana Dharmic corpus? Are there many texts? If not, let's discuss. So Sanatana Dharmic corpus, why many texts? So we need to have a structure, or we need to have a code, and that code has to be documented. Whether it is documented in a written form or it's through oral tradition, it has to be imbibed by the people following that particular tradition, and that has to be transformed from one generation to another generation. In Sanatana Dharma, people believed in listening, grasping, manana, by grasping it and then giving it to the next generation after generation. So in those days, probably we should also take it in today's context, that there was not available, technology was not available as we have today. So people have to rely on listening and then imbibing that, holding that in their memory, and then giving that to the next generation, so that the code of conduct or the basic tenets or the text is preserved. We can't call it as a text then, but I'm just using the term text is preserved. So the way the code of conduct was preserved is by listening. Hence the first name for the corpus that dictates the governing rule and the activities of Sanatana Dharma is known as Shruti, Sravanam. But it is only by listening, Ucharana, Anu Ucharana. So the student listens to what the guru or the preceptor says. The preceptor first recites, then the students absorb it through their ears, and then they recite it back. So Ucharana, Anu Ucharana, Grahyam. Because we are using the ears, it is known as Shruti. And Amnaya, and these since we have to get it in our memory, like we discussed in the last class, the early text was set in some meter, like Anushtup, Jagati, Trishtup, and so on and so forth. So it was set in poetical structure. So people were it was easy to memorize, by heart it, memorize it and repeat it. So it is known as Chandas. Chandas means a meter, structure. So the original texts were known as Shruti because it was preserved by means of listening and then transferring it to the next generation, Amnaya. That means one recites, another listens. Guru and Sishya sit together, listen, and then it is set into some poetical structure known as chandas. And it gives the code of conduct. So it is also known as Sastra. These are the different synonyms or Pairyayapada. Synonyms or Pairyayapada of the term Veda, word Veda. So that is the original text. So it was only one text until 5125 years roughly. Until 5200 years, take it that way, the entire corpus was grasped in memory, transformed from one generation to others, and the corpus was considered to be a voluminous magnum opus, but it was considered as only one text until 5200 years. That means until the start of Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga is roughly 5125 years old to date. Only in Dwapara Yuga, there came a sage called Krishna Dvaipayana. That was his original given name. He took a task to separate the entire corpus into different portions, into different sections. The splitting of this magnum opus corpus into sections, predominantly 4 sections. The splitting, the act of splitting is known as Vyasam or essay, whatever it is. Vyasam means essay, but you can also say that it is splitting, Vibhag. Sanskrit mein splitting ko we call it as a Vibhag, split or separate. So he got the name Vyasa, and since he did this separation of the Vedic corpus, is known as Veda Vyas. So there may be, for different yugas, there may be different Vyasas. But for our Chatur Yuga, the present Chatur Yuga which we are in the Pratama, first half of Kali Yuga. So the later part of Dwapara Yuga mein, there came a sage whose name was Krishna Dvaipayana. He was born in an island in Ganges. So Ganges stream split, and in one section, in one island of Ganges, his mother gave birth to him. His father was Parasara Maharishi, and he took on himself to separate the Vedas, to do Vibhag, to separate the Vedas into 4 major sections. Hence he was known, because of his action, known as Vyasa. And what he did, he separated or he grouped that corpus into 4 major sections. So he was known as Veda Vyasa. When he was born, he was dark in complexion. So people christened him as Krishna Dvipa. Since Dvaipayana comes from the word Dvipam. Dvipam means island. So he was born in an island in Ganges, and he was dark in complexion. So his mother and father perhaps would have christened him as Krishna Dvaipayana, but he became famously known as Veda Vyasa. So until 5125 or 5200, we don't know exactly at what part of Dwapara Yuga he did this Vibhag. But let's take that 5200 years here or there. So until then there was only one corpus. The entire corpus gave people how to live, and it also told people what to do. By then the civilization has refined, and people were divided into sections based on their work. That is important, we need to know. They were divided based on their work to do and to take care of one aspects of living. So there were educators or priestly people whose main task was to educate the masses and also to do the daily rituals, ritualistic practice. So Vedas not only talked about way of living, but that is the basis. But then over a period of time, the society became ritualistic. When the society became ritualistic, they need to have certain texts to perform the rituals or karma or kriya, and they took certain portions, cherry picked certain portions from this magnum opus Veda, this corpus, and then those portions that were used to conduct the karmas or the rituals or yajna or yaga, those were known as Yajushyakam or Yajush or Yajur. English we now use it as a Yajur. That those portions of Veda that are used for karmas, Srauta karma, that means what is given in Sastra. So Veda is also known as Sastra, Veda is known as Amnaya, Veda is known as Chanda, Veda is known as Shruti, Veda is known as Sastra. So those karmas that are dictated in the original corpus are known as Srauta. Srauta comes from the word Sastra. What is Sastra? Then you may ask, Sasanat iti Sastra. That which dictates, do this, don't do this. Then if you do this, what are you going to gain? If you don't do this, what are you going to not gain? If you do this which is not prescribed here, what is the punishment you are going to get? All these kinds of dictates, dictums. This corpus tells people these dictums, hence it is known as Sastra. And as we discussed in the last class, every Sanskrit word has a root. How did the word Sastra come? Sasanat, that means dictates. Sasana mane dictates, rule. Sasanat iti Sastra. So, it gave certain rules. And it says what are the consequences if you don't follow the rules. That is more important. Then says what are the positive aspects you are going to gain if you do what is prescribed. So one example is you got to do Trikala Sandhya Vandan. Sandhya mane the confluence of two time frame, morning and afternoon, morning and dawn, and then daytime and the night time, that is dawn, and then dusk, evening, and the later portion of the day. So that is known as Sandhya, confluence. And in those times, when the sun is ahead straight, that is known as Madhyanika. Ahani means day. So when the sun is in the middle of the day, Madhya Ahani becomes Madhyan. Okay, Ahani mane day, Ratri mane night. That we all know. So when the sun is straight upon your head, you have to do a ritual. You won't get any benefits by doing that particular rituals. But if you do not do those rituals, basic rituals I'm talking. What are the basic rituals? 3 times a day, one has to pray. You can't expect any special blessings by doing so. Your house will not be showered with golden coins by doing so. But by not doing so, you will accumulate certain negative aspects. So that's what it is. So it's not that if you do Sandhya Vandan, you are going to get something positive immediately. Of course, you will get it because your life becomes focused. So that is very important. And that thing is known as Apyavaya or sin. You don't have to use the word sin. That means you are bound to get things provided you do the basic duties. Those are the basic duties for which you don't expect any special positive attributes immediately, but you will definitely accumulate positive attributes because this gives you a focused activity or focused way of life. That is Sanatana Dharma. Then once you qualify this, you should have a basement. If you have to build a building, you should have a basement. Likewise, the minimum prescribed ritual one has to perform is known as Nitya Karma. Nitya mane daily, Karma mane activity, Karma, Kriya, everything. So those are all prescribed in Shastra, which are known as Srauta Karma, and you extend this Nitya Karma and to several other activities. Like once in 15 days. What comes once in 15 days? You get a new moon and a full moon. New moon these days we call it as Amavasya. Full moon we call Paurnama. Paurnamasi. But Veda calls, because the one good thing is Sanatana Dharma always tries to portray, even in the usage of words, in a positive word. In Amavasya, originally you are supposed to see, that is the first day of it's like first day of waning and waxing. So it is the first day of the waxing moon which you are supposed to see, but you will not be able to see clearly. So Amavasya is known as Darsha. That means that day the moon is starting to come, although you are not able to see through your naked eye, but it has started to grow. Amavasya is the first day the moon starts to grow. So that is Paurnamasi is the day when it is full moon. But Amavasya is the day when it starts to grow. Hence Veda calls it as Darsha. Meaning you are seeing moon changing its face. So Darsha Paurnamasa Ishti. So Veda is Kamya. That means once you do Nitya Karma as prescribed in Veda, then you go and ask for blessings. If I have to go to heaven, what should I do? Jyotishoma. Then Vasante Vasante Jyotishkamaya Jeta. So in every spring you have to do Jyotishoma. In every spring you have to do Soma Yaga. We'll see that later. Let's not confuse. So Vedas are nothing but code of conduct. Hence it is known as Shastra. You know the word Sasanati iti Shastra. Okay. Then this sage Vyasa divided the whole corpus into 3. And then he was assisted by one of his Shishya to do an amalgamation of some portion of Yajurveda and Samaveda together to make the 4th division. So originally Trayi, Veda is Trayi. So those portions of those Veda which were used to eulogize the deity, eulogize the devata, deity is not the correct word, devata, these people have certain divya attributes, hence the name devata. Divya mane unique and superior, hence the name devata. And those poems structured in some poetic meter which are used to eulogize these devatas are known as Rik. Then we call it as Rig, but originally it is Rik. Rik comes from the dhatu rich. Rich mane archana, to praise. Archana mane to praise. Archana mane to eulogize. So the first portion or the first division are all aimed at praising the devatas, which is nothing but doing archana, archayati. Rich mane archayati, hence the word rik. These are poetic structures. That portion is known as Rik or Rig Veda. Rich and then became Rig. When you do the Sandhi, it becomes Rig. So Rig. Then those portions that are used to do these Srauta Karmas as prescribed, these Karyas, for some phala, for some purpose, for some fruition. We call it in Sanskrit Kamya Palartham. That is known as Yuj or Yaj. Yajuhu. Yajna. Yaj mane to do yajna. How did the word yajna come? Yajna comes from the word yuj. When you have to do yajna, you have to bring people together. So yuj mane sangati, to group, to bring people together. Hence the name Yajanam. Yuj. And Yuj also gives one more meaning, devata pujanam. Sangati, to group people. So if you have to do a conference, you need to bring people together. So when you have to do this yaga as prescribed in Shastra, you need to bring people together. Sangati karna padta hai in Hindi. So you have to bring people together. Sangati. You have to bring people together. Sangati mane joint. So you have to bring people together. Hence the name Yajuhu, Yajusham. Yuj. Also you can take the root yuj. Yajna. Yuj. To do yajna, you need people. Okay, so that is known as yajur. Then, when you are eulogizing, you please the superior by singing. If you take a bath, most of the people have the habit of singing, so that the stress reliever, stress buster. So, there in their gods also, devatas also get pleased. They get pleased by priest if they sing. These poetic structures, if you put some tune into it, the tune to those poetical structures is known as sama. That is given in the singing form known as gana. Samagana is known as Samaveda. So, there is no new text. What are all the texts that are used? Majority of those texts which are used in Rig Veda are set into some form of tune. Samam. Those poetic structures in Rig Veda set into some tune is known as Sama, and they sing. So Samagana. So Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Samaveda. So Vyasa primarily split the corpus into three divisions. Then he was assisted by one able disciple known as Atharvangirasa Muni. And those portions, majority of the portions he took from Rig Veda, and then he added some portion of those Rig portions that were set to tune, and then he added on the periphery some additional things. That those portions that were assembled under the direction of Vyasa by his disciple Atharvangirasa Muni, that section was known as Atharva. And it is not the correct way to say Atharvana. No. Atharva. That's all. Atharvana is mishandling of the term. You have to say Atharva Veda, not Atharvana. So, if you have learnt Vedas in class under an able tutor, he would first correct you that you have to use Atharva instead of Atharvana, because these were compiled by Atharvangirasa Rishi. So, Rig, Yajur, Sama, Atharva. But originally Vyasa on his own divided into three. So, Veda is known as Trayi. So, people in those civilizations, they were not worried about how many cows you had, or how many horses you have, or how many goats you have. They counted themselves blessed if they were able to grasp these knowledge. Hence, in strict sense, in Vedic civilization, you are called a rich man because you inherited the rules and regulations by memory, what is prescribed in Shastra. Hence, Vedas are also known as Sri. S-R-I, Sri mane wealth. So, a person was measured by the knowledge here. That was how the civilization flourished. Then came people worried about looking into monetary aspects and all those things. But originally, the civilization was based on knowledge. So Veda herself. So we call Veda to be Mata. And you can also call Veda to be Purusha. Either you call them Veda Mata or Veda Purusha. Both you can use, because it's like Brahman. Brahman is neither masculine nor feminine. Likewise, Veda, you treat Veda as your father, as a Veda Purusha or Veda Mata. Either one is fine. So, Veda herself documents what is wealth. So it tells, hey people living on the earth, ahe budniya mantram me gopaya yam rishayastrai vidha viduhu rushassamani yajugumshi sahisri amrita satam. See, this is what it is. We don't see book because this is structured in a poetic way. People tell you 15 days, you recite back 15 days, next 15 days you sit there, memorize it. In 30 days, you are able to memorize 15 paragraphs. So that's the structure. So people go to these schools, patashalas, when they are 8 years old. By the time 15 years, 7 years, you memorize. Nothing you do. You don't learn the meaning, nothing. In 7 years, how many chapters you learn? By memory. If you are a Yajurved, if you follow Yajurved, you learn 80 chapters. That's all you do. In 7 years, the original text, somebody recites you for 15 days, one paksha. Paksha means 15 days, waning and waxing cycle. So in 115 days, the tutor teaches you. Then in the remaining 15 days, you repeat back to him. And then there are certain holidays. But for only Ashtami and Pradama, on a full moon day and new moon day, you sit in isolation and then you repeat. Okay, so in 30 days, you are able to grasp 15 paragraphs. Likewise, to learn 80 chapters with multiple paragraphs, it takes 7 years. Basic text or Mula portion. Mula mane basic. Okay, so that is the reason these Vedas are structured in some kind of a poetic structure or a paragraphic structure which is easy for you to memorize. There is no book. And it's not that what you learnt in first standard here in the modern education, we forget. Even in the same year, if it's in United States, students don't even remember what they did in the second 9 weeks or third 9 weeks. It's finished. 9 weeks you study, take the exam, get the grade, move on. It's not like that. In Veda, people have to remember from the first paragraph of the first chapter to the last paragraph of the 80th chapter. You got to recite in memory. That's what it takes 7 years. The basic structure. So what the Veda says, Ahirbudnya. There are so many ways you can interpret. Let's assume for easy sake, Ahirbudnya is a name of a disciple. But Ahirbudnya means Lord Shiva. Ahirbudnya, Ahibudnya, Ahi mane snake. So the world is held by snake. That's one understanding. So if the people that are on the place held by snake, so people, Manushya. So let's say that there was a student called Ahirbudni. So the teacher calls, Ahe Budniya, Ahirbudni, Craig Williams, listen. So this particular student must have been yawning in the class. So he calls him by name. This comes in Veda itself. So the Veda tells what is wealth. Okay. So the preceptor, one rishi, calls one particular student. Maybe he was yawning in the class or doing some mischief. Ahirbudnya. Ahe Budniya. He calls the disciple. What did I teach? Have you grasped it? Mantram me gopa. Gopaya mane protection. Have you grasped what I taught last 14 days? Ahe Budniya mantram me gopaya. The things what I have told have been coming generation after generation. Yam rishayaha. The learned people have been guarding these, what I have been teaching you, and they have grouped it as Yam rishayaha trai vida viduhu. They have grouped and guarded into 3 divisions. The teacher tells to that student, Ahe Budnya, Ahirbudni. It is called Rig, it is called Yajur, it is called Sama. Pay attention, because this is the wealth you are going to inherit. Sahisri. And that will be with you forever. Amrita Satam. Amrit mane na mrityu iti amrit. There is no death to it. You will not misuse it. You will not lose it, provided you guard it. How do you guard it? You keep on reciting it on a daily basis. So, once you learn, you have to recite one chapter every day without seeing any book. From memory, you have to recite Ahe Budniya Mantram Me Gopaya. Gopaya mane protect. Yam Rishayaha. Those rishis, what those rishis has given, Yaha Rishayaha. Vida Viduhu, they have grouped it into 3 types. Risha, Samani, Yajugumshi. So that gum and all comes, this is the phonetics. Don't worry about it. That is how it is structured. It's a Vedic Sanskrit. Take it like that. Risha, Samani, Yajugumshi. Because that is your wealth I am giving you. You have labored for 7 years. So guard it. So the Veda says this. So to make sure that we, imagine this was done several yugas before, even today, in daily recitation, what people have done, people have taken this paragraph, this particular paragraph in Yajurveda, and they have put that paragraph for your daily ritual. When you do the daily puja before God and you do arati, that way people have put this in your daily prayer so that every day you recite this paragraph, and if you understand the meaning, that's the catch. That is lost. Now we only rot learn Veda. Primarily we rot learn Veda, but then you won't know the purpose, how beauty this Sanatana Dharma is, how beautiful these Vedic texts are. But we have to make efforts. We will try our best to elaborate and elucidate the meaning. So now I have given the meaning. So they put this in a daily ritual so that it reminds you, at least by reciting and knowing peripheral meaning, you are able to understand the importance of Veda, understand the importance of preserving it. So where are you using this mantra or this section? Mantaram trayati iti mantra. Those poetic lines that help you to cross difficulties. Tarana mane bridge, crossing. Mantaram trayati iti mantra. Those texts that help you to solve the stress, that help you to lead the good living, where they have used it, we are using it in a daily ritual when you do the arati. Right? We do the arati, no? They kept it. So every day, at least once before the God, you do the arati, you tell this. What has that got relevance to do arati? In strict sense, no. Okay? But they use it so that, when I am praying before God, my duty is to protect the knowledge, what I have earned by labor, by my hard work, and use for the benefit of the society. So that is how the way of living has been structured. But over the period of time, for many reasons, we don't know or we don't pay attention to the meaning at all. So we just do it something as a chore, as a ritual. Then the value is lost. That's where the problem comes. Next generation asks us the question, what is the use of it? But when you tell them, we can't tell the meaning for every word for 80 chapters. Of course, you can do if you have patience and time. So what you do, you pick certain portions of Veda, first memorize them. So you don't have to take 8 years to memorize, because that's not going to be our day job. Pick certain portions, that also takes many years per se, and then understand the meaning. Then you will know, you yourself will imbibe those meanings and change your way of life. So knowledge is important. Sahisri Amrita Satam. So the Vedic way of living was acquiring knowledge. That's what I'm coming. Sanatana Dharmic corpus is one Veda. that got split some 5,100 odd years ago into three major sections and then one fourth supplemental section, Rig, Yajur, Sama, Atharvana. Wrong word. You have to say Atharva Veda. Because it was compiled under the direction of Vyasa Muni by his able disciple Atharvangirasa Rishi. So Rig, Yajur, Sama, Atharva. This is the wealth. So people took pride in gaining knowledge and living according to Shastra. What is the meaning? So Veda gives the knowledge to live. So Veda mane Vida. It comes from the root Vida. Vidha. So the root for Veda is Vida. Vida Jnane. Vid means to know. It's verb. So Vid means Vida Jnane. To know. What are you going to know? You are going to know the way of life. Then you go understand certain ontological nature. How am I created? Who created me? What was used to create me? That ontological structure. First, don't worry, I have to live. So there are certain governing rules to live. That's the basement. Once you started living, then you want to understand, who am I? Who created me? What was used to create me? Will I be eternal? What happens after this body is gone? Material. So that is philosophical understanding. Then that connection between the creator and you, how this has created, that's an ontological setup that you understand. All these are given in that corpus. So it is known as the bounty of knowledge, and your duty is to know with the jnana. Okay. Then Vyasa, then come, forget all the previous yuga, Treta, Krita Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga. Then assume that we are in the end of Dwapara Yuga. Vyasa did this division into four Vedas. Rig, Yajur, Sama, Atharva. Rig and Sama are same text. There is no change in the text portion. Only the way how you recite varies. If you put tune to the Rig mantras, or mantras are Rigs, RK. RK mane Rig. So, Sama. So, Rig and Sama are one and same, but for the way of recitation. And Yajur and Atharva. Then he had to propagate this Veda. So he found again four disciples. Okay, he called four disciples, only taught them that portion and asked them to propagate. So he got a disciple known as Pila, Pila, and he gave the Rig Veda to that Rishi who was known by the name Pila. Then he called another Rishi called Vaisampayana. And he said, Vaisampayana, I am giving you this book which is used to perform yaga. So go and propagate this. Go get many disciples, propagate. So Vaisampayana did what is known as Yajurveda propagation. Then he gave the Sama text and taught him how to sing those Vedic texts. That person was known as Jaimini. And then the text which was compiled under him with the help of Atharvangirasa Rishi, he gave that to a Rishi called Sumantu. And then, okay, he found four disciples. Now it's your duty to go and spread this Veda. So who are those four Rishis? Pila, Vaisampayana, Jaimini, Sumantu. Okay. Then he also started writing Puranas. Then he wanted to find somebody who will go and propagate those Puranas. So he found a disciple called Romaharsha. So he found a Rishi called Romaharsha and gave the corpus of Puranas. Pura api navam iti Purana. So these Puranas are going to tell the story that happened long time before, even before the time of Vyasa. But Vyasa wrote them. Pura api navam. He wrote them present day, but these happened long time. That's the difference between biography and Puranam. Ramayanam is a biography. Mahabharata is a biography. Because the authors were concurrently living when the story was happening. When Ramayana was happening, when Rama was living, the poet sage Valmiki was living. Similarly, when Mahabharata war was happening, the poet sage Vyasa was living. So they did it. It's contemporaneous literature. So that is itihasa. Iti iha asanne iti itihasa. Whereas Vyasa did not live when Matsya avatar happened or when Narasimha avatar happened. Vyasa did not live, but he retold the story. So it is known as Puranam. So all these Puranas he wrote. 18 such Puranas. In that particular class we'll see them. And he gave it to one disciple called Romaharsha. Now he said, oh Romaharsha, go and find many Vachaks. In Hindi we call Katha Vachaks. So you go and find many Katha Vachaks and propagate these Puranas, depending on the situation and depending on the interest. If people don't want to listen to Veda, go tell them about Bhagavat Puran. Go tell them about Vishnu Puran. Go tell them about Garuda Puran. Go tell them about Matsya Puran. Go tell them about Shiva Puran, like this. So, 5 major disciples were selected to propagate Veda and the ancillary text called Purana. Okay, Veda Vyasa, Paila, Vaisampayana, Jaimini and Sumantu. Then he took that Yajurveda corpus, Vaisampayana, and then he again, without changing the basics, he again distributed and divided so that it can be spread. And that the portions, the big portion of Yajurveda were again here and there edited and then given to people, which we call it as Shaka or branches. So when Vyasa divided, he divided into 3. He distributed to his disciples. They, to make it easy, without changing the basis, here and there they fine-tuned it and they gave it as branches of that particular Veda. And in Sanskrit, the word branch means Shaka or division. So that Veda again got distributed as different Shaka or branches or subdivisions, for lack of better term. So likewise, each Veda, Rig Veda, got distributed into 21 different types. Rig Veda has 21 Shakas. Yajurveda has 101 Shaka. Samaveda has 1000 Shaka. Atharva Veda has 9 Shaka. So 21 plus 101 plus 1000 plus 9. How much it comes to? 1131 branches of the single corpus. Prior to Vyasa, there was only one Veda. Vyasa did its Vibhag into 3 plus 1, 4. That 4 got distributed, I won't say divided, distributed with additions into 1131. Right. So that got distributed into 1131. This would be an important thing you need to note. Rig Veda has 21 branches or edited versions, put it like that. 21 different editions. Yajurveda has 101 editions. Samaveda has 1000 editions. Atharva Veda has 9 editions. So 1131 editions of the original text. Okay. How many are there today? Only 13. There are only 13 shakas. Out of that 13 shakas, 2 are not in the recitation form. So only 11 editions are being practiced. The whole world. So in Rig Veda, only 2 editions are there, but only one is prevalent. So the 2 editions are known as Shakala and Bashkala. Yajurved, there are only 6. Yajurved again got divided into Shukla Yajurved and Krishna Yajurved. In Shukla Yajurved, there are only 2 branches that are existing. Those are known as Kanva and Madhyandini, out of which only Kanva is prevalent. In Yajurved, only one is much practiced. There are 3. In Yajurved, there are 4 branches that are available. Out of 4, 2 are only in the text form. 2 are in recitation form, but only one is 90%. The remaining 10% is the second. So the most prevalent form of Yajurved is known as Taitriya Shaka or Taitriya Yajurved. The second one is Maitrayani. Those 2 are only in recitation form. And the textual form, 2 more, Kata and Kapishtala. So Yajurved, Shukla Yajurved and Krishna Yajurved. In Shukla Yajurved, there are 2 branches. Out of those, only one is prevalent, Kanva and Madhyandini. Kanva is prevalent. And in Taitriyam, there are 4 branches. In Krishna Yajurved, there are 4 branches, and the most prevalent, to which I belong to, is known as Taitriya Shaka. The other one is Maitrayani Shaka. That is more in Nasik and Maharashtra. Taitriyam is all over. And the other 2 are just in textual form. Nobody recites. Of course, textually it is there. Katha portion, Katha. And the other one is Kapishtala. So, 4 plus 2 plus 2, 8. And then Samaved, 3. Out of 3, 2 are more prevalent. The most prevalent is known as Kautuma Shaka. In South India, that is more prevalent. The other one is known as Ranayani. The third one is Jaimini, which is also practiced but is highly specialized. So Samaved 3, out of 3, 2 are practiced. Kautuma is more prevalent. So 8 plus 3, 11. And Atharva Veda 2. One is Shaunaka, another one is Pippalada. There are a lot of stories we can tell. So Shaunaka Shaka and Pippalada Shaka. So if you count them, 11 plus 2, the 2 which are only in the textual form are Katha and Kapishtala. So from 1131, we have come to 11. Because people only learnt by memorizing, and over the period of time, for many reasons, it has disappeared. But now there's a greater movement in Bharat and elsewhere to protect these remaining texts at least. And 11 shakas are being protected and practiced. So Vid Jnane is known as Veda. And Rig. There are in Rig Veda, there are about 1028 chapters or poems. Either way. In Rig Veda, there are 1028 chapters or poems. The Vedic term is known as Sukta. What does the word Sukta mean? Sushtu Uktam iti Sukta. Uktam means told. Sushtu means well. So there are 1028 Suktams or poems in Rig Veda, and each Suktam is made up of number of couplets, 2 lines or sometimes 1 line. And those 2 line or 1 line, they are known as mantras. So Rig Veda is predominantly what is practiced today is Shakala. Shakala branch of Rig Veda has 1028 poems or suktams or chapters. You call it anyway. 1028 suktam has 10,552 mantras or rigs. 10,552 mantras or rigs. Okay. So because Rig Veda is poetic form, you can count mantras. Now coming to Yajurveda, predominantly Krishna Yajurveda. Yajurveda is prose form. You don't write poetry in a prose structure. How do you write a prose structure? By paragraphs. And paragraphs are grouped as chapters. So Yajurveda is quantified by the number of chapters it has. So Yajurveda has 80 chapters. Krishna Yajurveda has 80 chapters. Each chapter, 80 chapters are known as prashnas or prapatakas. And how is chapter divided? Chapter is divided into sections or paragraphs. Those paragraphs are called as anuvakas. So the Rig Veda is divided into book. First it is divided into book. Yajurveda is divided into 7 book. Book is known as kanda, canto in English. So Yajurveda, Krishna Yajurveda is divided into 7 cantos or 7 books. Each book is divided into chapters. So the total number of chapters in the whole 7 books equal to 80. And each chapter, how many chapters are there? 80 chapters. Each chapter is divided into paragraphs. And those paragraphs are called as anuvakas. And each paragraph is again grouped into 50 words, which is known as, in Sanskrit, 50 is notated by a word called panchashat. So, panchashats, then anuvakas, prapatakas, canto. So, there are 7 cantos divided into 80 chapters. Each chapter is divided into paragraph. Each paragraph is grouped as 50 words called panch. Panch mane 5. Shat. It should be, technically it will be 100, but no. Panchashat is 1 word. It is 50. Don't ask me how people name 10. That's the 10. People are using for 10 count means 10. For 20 means 20. Likewise, for 50, the Sanskrit word is panchashat. And Samaved is divided into former and later. Purvarchika, Uttararchika. Uttara mane later, Purva mane previous, earlier. So earlier half, later half. And Atharva Veda is divided into Kanda and Adhyaya, or chapters or Prapataka. The interesting thing we need to know is how many suktas are there in Rig Veda. 1028 suktas, 10,552 mantras. 1. Second, Yajurveda, Krishna Yajurveda, Taitriya Shaka is divided into 7 cantos, total of 80 chapters. Each chapter is divided into sections or paragraphs called Anuvaka. Anuvakas are grouped by 50 words each. So one paragraph may have 250 word group. That means 2 panchashat. So why Sanatanic dharmic basic text is Veda, Vidajnane. And Veda was only one corpus, one bundle, until 5125 years. Because as the age goes and develops, we are caught into so many stresses. External stress, internal stress, lack of memory, diseases, way of living changes. So, Vyasa thought that this won't work. People will never have the stamina. People will never have that kind of a grasping power. Mostly people will not have time because they will be wandering into different interests. So let me divide this and give it to people, so at least they focus on their section. That also lasts over a period of time. Only in the past 20 years in Bharat, a renaissance has happened. Even people going to professional studies like you are showing interest. That because of technology. In past 15 years, because of technology, the Skype thing came first. So people were able to group together and learn this. In a way, technology has done Sanatana Dharma a good thing, that it has brought people together virtually, and we are doing yajna. What yajna? It is known as Vak yajna. We are trying to do yajna, join together and do something in a focused way to learn things about Sanatana Dharma. So, if somebody asks why there are so many gods in Sanatana Dharma, why there are so many different texts, no. There is only one God. Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vadanti. That again is in Rigved. Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vadanti. There is only one. Agni, Marut, Vayu, Idam, Ayuhu. You can name it like anything. Agni, Indra, Varuna, Vayu, Marut. It doesn't matter. Everything denotes to one supreme. Ekam means one. Sat means true. There's only one truthful supreme. That is known as Brahman. Omnipresent, omnipotent. That which creates, that which sustains, and that which in a way destroys. So that's long short, let's not worry. That is the creator, that is the sustainer, and that's the one that destroys at the end. So that is Ekam Sat. Vipra, people. Vipra means knowledgeable person, but here we take it as people. People name it as different, like Shiva, Vishnu, Kartikeya, Ganapati, so on and so forth. But the supreme is only one. So, but Hindu or Sanatana Dharma gives you flexibility to name whatever way you want. Okay, but understand that there is only one, and there is only one text that is guiding you to lead a life whose purpose is to know yourself. Who am I? Once you know who you are, you obviously will know what created you. Then you understand what is the relationship between that creator and you, and then eternally you have to go to the one that created you. Laya, it is called Layam. So the path to reach that supreme or that creator is the practice you do. It starts with different form. Some people believe in karma, some people believe in bhakti, some people believe in jnana. And the most easiest form is you take refuge in the supreme. I have nothing to do. Oh Lord, you are my savior, take care of me. That is known as prapatti or sharanagati. Okay, so karma, jnana, bhakti, prapatti. There are 4 paths. Again, you can choose, but you always choose, in a right angle triangle, you only use a Pythagorean line to reach A to B. Similarly, that's a human tendency to choose your quickest path, easiest path. The easiest path is bhakti and prapatti. So that the text that teaches not only about the supreme, about the way of life and the path to reach that. So, Veda gives three aspects. One, karma portion. What all daily rituals and fortnightly rituals and monthly rituals and periodic rituals you have to do so that you refine yourself. That is known as karma kand. Kanda means portion. And then the last portion, it takes you stepwise. The last portion talks to you about the Supreme. That is known as Brahma Kand or Brahma portion, about the Supreme. Then you have to eulogize or practice some rituals to please that devata. That is known as Upasana Kand or Upasana portion. So Veda is the book of knowledge that gives you different ways to reach the Supreme and know yourself. The portion that solely dedicates itself to preach you how to do karmas or how to practice the rituals. That is known as Karma Kanda. And that portion that simply only talks about Supreme, you, and the relationship between you and Supreme is known as Brahma Kanda. And there are portions in the Karma Kanda. Brahma Kanda is also known as Jnana Kanda. So Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda, there are portions which are just simply used to eulogize. Those are known as Upasana Kanda. And a simple example of Upasana Kanda, which is in the Karma Kanda, is the 4th canto, 5th chapter. What is 4th canto, 5th chapter? Everybody would have known this. That's Sri Rudram. 4th Kanda, 5th Prasna is fully dedicated to praying the Rudra. Even though that mantra is not for eulogizing. That mantra is recited when you build the altar, high altar to do the Havan. You are invoking a supreme deity called Rudra, who is being invoked to protect you while you are building the Vedic altar. That is the karma portion. But we use it as a eulogy to Shiva. Namo hiranyabahave senanyapataye namo namaha. So that mantra originally was used by the Vedic seers while they are building the Vedic altar to do Asameda, whatever. Okay. When they are building the Homa Havan, when they are keeping the brick to build the high altar, it's known as Ishtika. The Sanskrit word for brick is Ishtika. When they were keeping one Ishtika on top of one Ishtika, they are invoking a devata to protect them so that it doesn't fall or they don't fall, they don't get sick. So that was used for building the altar. But then we use it as a mantra to please Rudra or Shiva in temple. So that is known as Sri Rudram. And the 4th canto as 7th chapter, that is Chamaka. Chamaka means asking. I want this, I want that. Idinam sudinam chame. May this day be good. So that comes in the same 4th canto, 7th chapter, which is known as Chamaka Prasna. And then the 7th canto ends by seeking the blessing to live well and take care of the world, which is known as Ashwamedha Prashna. So the Veda begins, Yajurveda begins with Darshapurna Ishti and ends with Ashwamedha. In Karma portion, the epitome of the Karma is Ashwamedha. That comes in the 7th book. Veda's first book begins with a small Ishti known as Darshapurna Ishti, which you do on a new moon, on a full moon. And then it goes into Rajasuya, and then Sapta Soma Yaga, Vajapayam, Ati Rudram, and all those. We don't have to go. So this is Veda. Veda, basic way of lifestyle. Then daily what you have to do, that is known as karma. Then once you do karma, you are organized. Then you start contemplating. Oh, I need to know. Now I have been doing this Nitya Karma Anushtana, daily ritual. What's the purpose of it? Then you try to seek that knowledge. So that comes at the end of Veda, which is known as Vedanta or Vedanta, or it is also called Upanishad. Upa mane samipe, nishat mane to sit. So while you refine yourself, you glean knowledge and knowledge and knowledge, you go closer to the Brahman. Upa, samipe, close, nisha, to sit. Shat mane nish, closely sit. So you closely sit near the Supreme. So it starts ritualistic, then it goes into the state of contemplation, and then you get closer to the Supreme. That is Veda. So Sanatana Dharmic concept basic text is Veda. It's only one. So when you compare Sanatanic Dharma and other religion, you can categorically say that it only talks about one Supreme, which is known as Brahman. But Sanatana Dharma gives flexibility to name and eulogize that Supreme in whatever way or form you want. Male, female, animal shape, whatever you want. Veda gives you that flexibility. Rigved, in the first mandala itself, it gives Ekam Sati Vipra Bahuda Vadanti. And then the text, because for convenience, that has been divided into 4 divisions, which again has multiple editions. It's not possible for you to learn everything. So the magnanimity of the Vedic seers was such that, okay, at least try to concentrate on your portion and know what it is there. So it is one. Supreme is one. The book to understand that Supreme and lead a good life is also one. And that text is the authoritative text, is known as Veda. And the way of life that is built upon that prescribed text is known as Sanatana Dharma. That leads us to reach that Supreme who is a creator, who is Brahman. Brihatvat iti Brahman. That which is big, all encompassing. Brihatvat iti Brahman. Okay? Sanno mitrasyam varunaha, sanno bhavatvaryama, sanna indro brihaspatihi, sanno vishnururukkramaha, namo brahmane, namaste vayo, tvameva pratyaksham brahmasi, tvameva pratyaksham brahmavadisham, ruthamavadisham, satyamavadisham, tanmamavid, tadvaktaramavit, avín mám, avid vaktaram. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.